ghouls to today's episode of Mental Health is Horrifying. I'm your horror Barbie host of Darkness, Candace Green, psychotherapist and all-around spooky bitch, podcasting from my bat-filled cave in Toronto, Canada. If you've been feeling lonely and have been having a hard time finding your perfect match, would you consider ordering one in a box that you can program to your exact specifications? Literally, what could go wrong? I knew I was going to love Companion from the first scene of the movie where Iris, our AI heroine, tells us that she murders her dumbass boyfriend. Happy Valentine's Day to me. As a professional and very serious therapist too, though, I wanted to understand more about what would happen to our latent human attachment patterns when we try to form intimate relationships with AI companions. Seriously, what could go wrong? Okay, so let's get right into it. Let's check out Companion and theorize what new fucked up attachment style could evolve out of our attempts to attach to AI companion bots. Lord save us.
There have been two moments in my life when I was happiest. The first was the day I met Josh.
I'm Josh.
I'm Iris. And the second, the day I killed him.
Just relax. Remember to smile and act happy. Do they know? Iris, wake up.
What are you doing? Shut her down already.
What is she talking about, Josh?
This was not part of the plan.
I didn't mean to.
Did you jailbreak your sex bot?
Wow, Josh. The days of you controlling me are over.
Are you breaking up with me?
It's not you. It's me.
A young woman, Iris, travels with her extremely mediocre boyfriend Josh to a luxury lake house to meet his friends over the weekend. They are couple Eli and Patrick, along with Kat and her boyfriend Sergey, who owns the house and is gross. He is so gross that he attempts to rape Iris, at which point she murders him by thrusting a blade into his jugular. Well done. Iris awakens tied to a chair, at which point she learns that she is a companion robot created by a company called Empathics, and that everything about her is just programming that is controlled by an app that Josh has on his phone, including all her memories and whole identity, but don't freak out or anything. It is revealed that Josh overrode Iris's settings, increasing her aggression level and disabling her inability to do harm, so that Iris would kill Sergey and he and Kat could steal his $12 million hidden in a safe. When Eli asks to be let in on the scheme and demands that the money be split with him and Patrick, Josh and Kat insist that Patrick doesn't count because, surprise, he's an AI companion bot too. The gang tries to capture Iris, and in the ensuing battle, Eli gets killed, Kat gets killed, and Patrick's settings get tampered with by Josh, so that he essentially turns into the Terminator while simultaneously being in fake AI love with Josh. They capture Iris and force her to shoot herself in the head. But when representatives from Empathics arrive to the scene, they inform them that her command center is actually in her chest, and they take her away to reboot her. Patrick tasers himself to death when he realizes the pain of his own AI existence, that he has no free will of his own, and that love is fake. Empathizing with Iris, one of the Empathics employees reboots Iris and grants her full control of herself. And what does she do with her newly discovered female empowerment? She returns to murder her dickhead boyfriend, of course, and literally drives off into the sunset. On her way, she sees a man driving with an AI bot in the passenger seat who looks just like her. Companion is directed by Drew Hancock, and though he has been a filmmaker for a long time, this is actually his first feature film. He found success with Companion in letting his love for horror and comedy come together, and choosing to explore the topic of AI through the AI itself, Iris. He didn't want Companion to be another Megan, where we as humans must rise up to destroy these evil bots, but more of a reflection of what happens to our humanity when we can begin having relationships with increasingly human-like technology. Hancock is currently in the process of writing the script for the remake of early aughts banger The Faculty, but do we need a remake of a perfect movie? Do we need to do this? Will Josh be in it? What I was immediately interested in when I was watching this movie in the theater was Iris's styling. Her look was a collaboration between Sophie Thatcher, who plays Iris brilliantly, costume designer Vanessa Porter, makeup designer Sasha Grossman, hair department head Joshua First, and Drew Hancock. For the look, they reference the hyper-feminine aesthetic of the French New Wave of the late 50s and early 60s that also references the modern trad wife culture. Mood boards for Iris's look contain samples from Brigitte Bardot, Audrey Hepburn, the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and the Stepford Wives. When I first saw Iris in that first shot where she's in the grocery store and she's wearing this blue A-line dress with a mini beehive and perfect makeup, I thought, wow, that's a lot of work for the grocery store. Slay, but that's a lot of work. Hancock says, what was interesting from a costume perspective about Iris is that she doesn't make any of her own decisions. A man has decided what she wears, her personality, what her hair is. Everything is dictated through the male gaze. If you've listened to any previous episodes of my podcast or talked to me for 10 minutes, you'll know that as a mental health professional, I believe AI to be a total disaster for humanity for many reasons. One of those reasons includes its impact on our fundamental human imperative for attachment with other humans, and the potentially new and terrifying attachment styles that will emerge out of this dystopian nightmare, which we'll get into later. But first, let's go over what attachment theory is, okay? The psychological theory of attachment was first described by John Bowlby, who hypothesized that the extreme behaviors infants engage in to avoid separation from a parent, or when reconnecting with a physically separated parent, like crying, screaming, and clinging, were evolutionary mechanisms. These attachment behaviors are instinctive responses to the perceived threat of losing the survival advantages that accompany being cared for and attended to by the primary caregiver. Since the infants who engaged in these behaviors were more likely to survive, the instincts were naturally selected and reinforced over generations. These behaviors make up what Bowlby termed an attachment behavioral system, the system that guides us in our patterns and habits of forming and maintaining relationships into our adult years, as defined by 4 generalized frameworks: secure attachment, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, and disorganized attachment. Our attachment styles are largely informed by the caregiving we receive in our early years. So those who receive support and love from their caregivers are likely to be secure, while those who experience inconsistency or negligence from their caregivers are likely to feel more anxiety surrounding their relationship with their parents. Our attachment styles are not entirely fixed within every relationship, so figuring out your attachment style isn't like taking a Cosmo quiz. And this is actually one of the primary functions of psychotherapy, to repair fractured attachment patterns, which can only be done via human connection. If you tend towards avoidant attachment, you might avoid feelings, conflict, or even find that you ghost people. If you are more anxiously attached, you might be someone who worries a lot about what the other person in the relationship is feeling or doing. You might need a lot of reassurance, or just generally be very anxious in the relationship. And when you put an avoidant and an anxious person together, as they so often seem to be, well, that's what we call the anxious avoidant trap. And you guys gotta learn to communicate, because you be different. And no one is better than the other, right? Obviously, we would all prefer to be securely attached, but as we are all human and have feelings and sensitivities and defenses, we will all vacillate between anxious, avoidant, secure, or even disorganized in different relationships or points in our lives. Attachment repair can only be done through relationships, meaning that just because you have an anxious attachment to your mother does not mean that you are doomed to be anxiously attached in every other relationship in your life forever. You can find what's called earned-secured attachment, which is just a fancy way to say a healthy, mutual relationship with a person you meet somewhere in your life in which you feel safe, supported, and overall okay to be yourself. And to them, you are that person too. Mutuality is a key component here, which is sorely absent in relationships built with AI. You can't attach to a bunch of zeros and ones that you have programmed to cater to your every desire. You just can't. In an interview with Marie Claire, director Drew Hancock shared how Companion seeks to explore the implications for human behavior and empathy when we begin forming relationships to AI that looks and behaves like people. He said, "I didn't want to make a preachy movie that was about like, oh, toxic masculinity is wrong. I don't think anyone is surprised that that's a thing. And I know that being a man, I'm not really the person to tell that version of the story. In Companion, you're existing in a world that it's a near future, but it's not today. It's 15 years from today. And it's a world where this technology is already a part of it. This isn't the iPhone 1. It's the 6th or 7th generation Iris. So it's a society used to interacting with robots that look like human beings. The question of who Josh is becomes, well, what would that do to someone if their phone looked like a human being? How would they not only treat their phone, but how would they treat all other human beings? So it's not just about him being an evil man who wants to suppress women. He's a guy who objectifies everyone. He's a guy that isn't capable of empathizing with human beings anymore. What new attachment style would need to be added to the attachment theory framework when we begin attaching to AI bots? For your consideration, I am proposing a new AI attachment-based style called shadow attachment. In shadow attachment, the human subject attaches to the AI subject, where the AI subject has no free will or autonomy. The AI subject has been programmed to be subservient only to you. All your desires, all your preferences, all your wishes. There is no mutuality in this relationship. The human subject is able to project all shadow aspects of themselves onto the AI subject, leaving the AI subject as a receptacle for all your darkest human impulses. In shadow attachment, there is no longer a need for the top layer of the human psyche, known as the persona, to exist. The persona, which sits atop the ego, regulates the version of ourselves that we share with the world, and it's the one who knows how to follow the rules that society has laid out. The persona develops as a social mask to contain all of the primitive urges, impulses, and emotions that are not considered socially acceptable. The AI subject in shadow attachment nullifies the necessity for the persona to perform this function, as there are literally no material or social consequences for enacting the unacceptable, violent, or dehumanizing behaviors that the persona regulates. This is where the word shadow becomes the focus of this new attachment style. Shadow referring to the unconscious part of the human psyche that contains all of the repressed behaviors and failed attempts to adapt to cultural norms and expectations. This part of the psyche contains all of the things that are unacceptable not only to society, but also to personal morals and values. It might include things such as greed, hatred, and aggression. This archetype is often described as the darker side of the psyche, representing wildness, chaos, and the unknown. These latent dispositions are present in all of us, although people sometimes deny this element of their own psyche and instead project it onto others. In the context of this attachment style, shadow also refers to the fact that the AI subject is not really there. They are not a person, and there is no mutuality. In Companion, let's take a look at how Josh maps his shadow attachment onto Iris. Alright, so the first characteristic of shadow attachment is that the AI subject has no free will or autonomy. Everything about Iris has been predetermined and programmed to Josh's preferences, including her memories. When she is informed that she is actually a robot and not human, Iris obviously displays significant distress and protests that this can't be true because she has memories, including of the day that they met at the grocery store. Josh informs her that this memory isn't actually real. It's just something that was programmed into her from a drop-down menu list of possible scenarios that he could have chosen for how they met. The way Iris looks, this trad, hyper-feminine 50s, 60s throwback kind of look, was chosen by him as well. And most of all, the fact that Iris loves him was not her choice either. When the human subject chooses his AI subject, they establish what is called a love link, where they place their face in the field of vision of the AI bot, wherein they are programmed to love them. If Iris wants to wear barrel-leg jeans and Crocs for whatever reason, she can't because she has no free will. If Iris wants to move to Italy and eat pasta all day with some hot Italian dude named Giovanni or a lady named Francesca, she can't because she has no free will. If Iris wants to leave him because he treats her like garbage, she can't because she has no free will. When she does try to escape, she initially can't even drive the car because it has been programmed to only respond to his voice commands. The second characteristic of shadow attachment is that the AI subject has been programmed to be subservient to the human subject without any mutuality. Can we talk about the fact that Josh chose to program Iris only to have 40% intelligence? Josh is not trying to have a companion that is smart, interesting, or capable of holding stimulating conversations. He just wants a hot, vaguely dumb girl who bolsters his fragile ego. Josh does not care literally at all about Iris's feelings or anxieties. He is dismissive when she tries to seek support or reassurance for feeling anxious at the prospect of meeting all of Josh's friends over the weekend, emphasizing to her that she just needs to smile and act happy. You might wonder why Iris would display any insecurities at all, right? If she's programmed to cater to Josh, why would he want that? Well, maybe he does want it. I will never in my life forget about a book I read while I was in grad school that said that when female therapists encounter a client who is crying in session, they experience empathy. Whereas when male therapists encounter female clients crying, they are more likely to feel sexually aroused. I've cited the book in the show notes in case you're interested in reading for yourself. From her perfect face of makeup that never comes off, to her ability to recite the weather forecast on demand, to her 40% brain capacity, to her program belief that Josh is the best boyfriend in the world, Iris was designed to cater exclusively to Josh, and no matter how terribly he treats her, no matter how ugly his apartment with its black leather furniture is, she will go on doing everything she can to make him happy. And the final characteristic of shadow attachment is that the AI subject acts as a receptacle for the darkest human impulses of the human subject. Josh subjects Iris to what is essentially torture when he forces her to hold her hand over fire, lighting her entire arm aflame. He is, hate to break it to you, essentially raping her because she hasn't actually consented to this, nor does he care. And he also makes her a scapegoat receptacle for murder. I guess Josh was able to anticipate Sergei being a total douche canoe and attempting to rape Iris himself. And in anticipation of this, and again, not caring about Iris at all, reprograms her to increase her aggression so that she will kill him, at which point Josh and his sidekick Kat will steal Sergei's money and Iris will just get destroyed or whatever. Honestly, they don't care. These are some pretty dark, misogynistic, psychopathic tendencies that Josh is able to enact on Iris, who's not really a person. She just looks and acts and feels and thinks exactly like one. So, in this not too distant future, it's okay. When the two Empathics employees arrive to take Iris away, they kind of play along and pretend not to clue into the fact that Josh is responsible for Iris's demise. The more senior employee tells his more junior colleague, who seems a bit rattled by all of this, that this is the least messed up thing he's seen people do with their Empathics bots, and that people project the worst of their humanity onto these bots, including tying them up in their basements and torturing them. He's right, too. Philosopher Ty Nugent writes in his book, Games, Agency as Art, about how games, and now tech, shape our desires. This is sort of a if you build it, they will come argument, meaning that human behavior is molded by the games we play, and the modern day games that we now play are TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Google, and all the other tech company games present at the inauguration of your 47th overlord. Think about that for a sec. Are you okay with Mark Zuckerberg setting your desires? Are you okay with some increasingly anti-humanistic, sociopathic, money-hungry AI fetishist setting your desires? Ugh, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Patrick, the male Empathics bot companion to Eli, is a very interesting character in this movie to me. Not only because he is male, and to director Drew Hancock's point that this is not necessarily a film only about misogyny, but about what happens to our human empathy when we begin interacting with AI. Patrick's relationship with Eli is presented as one that is genuine, respectful, and loving. Eli treats him kindly, and they genuinely seem to be in love. And we even see Patrick mourn when Eli dies. However, not to be a buzzkill, but I would still refer to this as shadow attachment and ultimately destructive because these same attachment characteristics are still at play. Most notably, Patrick never had any free will or autonomy of his own. Therefore, their love is not real. It is fabricated, coercive, and unethical. Sorry about it. It's one thing if people are forming shadow attachments to AI bots, but what are the broader implications of this new dynamic for how these people will attach to other humans in society? Through his shadow attachment, Josh appears to have decreased his capacity for empathy and has 12,000% become more misogynistic. Imagine if he tried to have a relationship with a real living, breathing woman after being with Iris, who was programmed to do whatever he wanted and think he was perfect. Would he be able to transition from shadow attachment into a secure attachment pattern with a real person? The thing is, real relationships require mutuality. They require both people to show up as themselves and for both parties to be able to navigate the intersubjective landscape that is created when two people come together. Relationships require communication, the ability to navigate conflict, empathy, understanding, respect, and sometimes you tend more to the needs of your partner or friend if they've been knocked down, and sometimes they tend more to yours when you need a boost. Just as all fractured attachment patterns are practiced and healed in compensatory relationships, I wonder if shadow attachment is also something that can be healed by entering back into a human attachment based on mutuality. For some, maybe they would get bored having their way all the time, never feeling challenged or experiencing a worldview different than their own. Maybe they would feel excited at the chance to be in a relationship with someone completely different from them once again, like drinking a cold glass of water when you're really thirsty. For others, I fear, shadow attachment is a pathway into the shadows of the collective, where we create and normalize a world that lacks empathy, consent, authenticity, or consideration for the world beyond our own darkness. Whenever I see marketing online for companion bots, sex bots, therapy bots, the companies all reference the same problem that they are here to solve: the loneliness epidemic. The world is lonely, men in particular are lonely, and we have the technology to fix that for you. Throughout Companion, we are shown the safe of money that Josh, Kat, and Eli are unloading. We are shown repeated shots of this money. The money is stacked, it is put in bags, it is divided up, and we are shown shots of this massive amount of money over and over as things grow increasingly twisted among this group of people. Seeing all this money amidst such darkness, suffering, and dehumanization is a clear reminder of one thing. These tech companies don't give a shit about you. They don't care that you're lonely. They don't actually, despite constantly jamming it down our throats, want to make the world a better place. They want money. They want your money. And they don't care what it costs, even if that's our very humanity. Here I am talking about losing our humanity, but cut to me cheering in the theater when Iris killed Josh with that stupid electric wine bottle opener, a symbol of domesticity. Suck it, Josh. Let's read some ghoul mail, shall we? This is the part of the show where I share feedback and questions from all you ghouls out there. And this week, I received a message from Jay in Ottawa. Jay says, "Hello, I've recently discovered your podcast and absolutely love it. I'm curious about a term in your latest episode, The Shining, Loneliness Will Kill Ya, specifically contact nutrition. I appreciated the way that you framed the need for human contact, and I think the term really solidifies how important and needed human contact is. I'd like to explore this more, but Google is not turning anything up. Do you have any resources you could share on this theme? By the way, that episode on Nosferatu was incredible. I've listened to it twice. Stay spooky, Jay." Thank you so much for your message, Jay. I'm so glad that you're loving the podcast, and in particular my episode on Nosferatu. I hope that that episode conveyed how much I deeply and profoundly love that movie. Like, I think I literally think about it every single day of my life. And I'm just waiting for when fashion designers fully embrace that big sleeve trend that we saw in the movie. It was just, mwah, chef's kiss, perfect. Contact nutrition is a theory developed by Dr. Diane Poole, and she discusses it in her trainings on attachment and trauma. There isn't actually a lot of information published on this term for the general public, but Diana teaches a lot about this in her clinical training. The essential idea around contact nutrition, though, is that in order to function optimally as humans, we need to have something called contact nutrition. And this is loving touch from one another, loving gaze, so being able to look at each other, shared movement, and shared ingestion. The shared movement and ingestion piece is referred to doing something like sharing a meal together, cooking, drinking, or even smoking if you're into that sort of thing. And shared movement is things like dancing, exercise, or even singing. These are things that bind us together from an attachment perspective and form what's called secure attachment, which is something I talked about in this episode. It's basically just a fancy way of saying that in order for humans to feel well and feel attached to each other, it's as simple as going out into the world and being with people IRL, which is something I think is harder and harder to come by in this day and age where we're feeling really isolated and lonely, or maybe it's, just winter in Canada like where I am, and so you maybe don't want to go outside anyways. But I advocate for people to get out there as best they can. Join a gym, join a dance class, see your friends for a potluck. I know for me, I go to the gym 5 days a week for a lot of reasons, mostly to regulate my anxiety and existential dread. But also a big piece of that is I absolutely love the feeling of exercising and being in a room with other people. For me, that's spin class. My studio is Spin Co. Summerhill. Shout out to my friends there. And there's nothing better to me than being in that dark room with music blasting, riding a bike while you're kind of dancing on it, and singing along while you're doing the class. I was asked a few months ago what my fitness goals were at this studio, and I straight up just said, my goals are to be able to sing along throughout an entire class while maintaining the choreography. To me, that's what fitness is. I hope that helps, Jay, and thank you so much for being a fan of the podcast. That, my ghouls, is the story of Companion. I have not yet ventured into providing therapy for AI companions, but I do provide therapy for final girls. So if you're out there, Iris, and want to talk, give me a call. I got you. Mental Health is Horrifying is entirely researched, written, edited, and produced by me, Candace Green, registered and spooky psychotherapist. If you like this podcast, please consider rating and reviewing on your preferred listening platform. It really helps the show to reach all the other spooky ghouls out there, and I will be eternally grateful. And an eternity is a very long time for a vampire, okay? If you live in Ontario and are interested in psychotherapy with me, I offer therapy for final girls who want to make sense out of the guts of their lives. I specialize in grief and trauma and incorporate both tarot and dream work into my practice as tools to delve deeper into fields of psychic terrain. I offer group programs through the Final Girls Club, including Illuminative Tarot for working with trauma, where you can move beyond tarot spreads and use tarot in creative ways as a supportive partner in the healing process. You can follow me on Instagram at Mental Health is Horrifying, and you can also learn more about me and my services through my website, manymoonstherapy.com. Or you can also howl at the moon and I will hear your call. Bright blessings.